Welcome back to the Empire Builders podcast, where Stephen Semple, who's the guy that you're going to hear next, and myself, David Young, we talk about empires and how they're built and what makes them tick. And if you're listening to us in the morning, why it's totally appropriate for the topic that Stephen just whispered in my ear, which is Folgers. Immediately popped into my head was the old jingle: "The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup."
Yeah, and Folgers is, like, what a dominant force, in the coffee space. Like, in the
Mhm.
home ground space, the data that I was able to find is they do, like, you know, close to 900,000,000 in sales and are
Mhm.
basically 27% of the market.
My guess is that they, in the past, have been more than that, but the crafty, roasting kinda people have probably been nibbling away at that over the years, but I'll bet back in the '70s or '80s, um,
And I
th
didn't
th
I
they
didn't go
they were
back.
just a juggernaut.
Yeah, and I didn't go
Um,
back and take a look at that, but look, when you're number 1, you're number 1, right? Like,
yeah.
that's a
Yeah,
big
oh,
that's a
when
big
when
deal.
when you and I were kids, right, nobody was grinding their own beans. You bought a big can of coffee and, put it in a percolator. That's that's what coffee was.
But, the interesting part, and we will talk a little bit about that campaign, The Best Part of Waking Up, that campaign came out in 1984, and
Mm.
prior to that, Maxwell House was actually number 1. That campaign allowed them to surpass Maxwell House and become the leader in the space. So it was a very, very successful
It's
campaign.
it's one of those jingles, I did, I don't know if it's out yet, but I did an episode of Sticky Sales Stories with, uh, Matthew
Mhm.
Burns, and, we talked about Winston and the power of the Winston, jingle to
Yeah.
get in people's heads, and if you were a kid before 1971, you still remember that jingle,
Yes.
and so Folgers, right, and gosh, you were inundated with, you couldn't escape the Folgers jingle.
And, there's the power of the fact that it's a rhyme, the best part of waking
Mhm,
like rhymes, as we know, have got
mhm.
a rhythm and a power to them. We'll come back to the jingle
Well,
later, but let's go
I'm
back
get
to the
let
beginning.
me put one more little plug in for that
Sure.
episode with Matthew, because we talk about the scientific reason that audio is so sticky in your head.
Cool.
Right, so it has to do with the brain and humans' unique ability to process sound,
Yeah,
and, that's the fun part. It's more than just a story of, "Oh, we this is how we sold cigarettes." So, anyway, check that out,
that's
a sticky
awesome.
sales
That's
story.
awesome. So, as we all
But
know
wait till the end of the podcast to check it out.
So as we all know, the Boston Tea Party was a thing in the United States, and in fact, it actually led to the growth of coffee being something that people started drinking in the United States. It ended up becoming, a statement and a revolutionary idea, and coffee houses started to pop up both in the United States and around the world.
But it was goddamn that tea and the tax on it?
Yeah, that started getting
Yeah,
things
okay.
going, but
Which explains why you guys still drink, a lot of tea in Canada.
we do, but not as much as in other places. But the problem is coffees, back in the 1850s, coffee's actually pretty gross. Like, people buy big bags of green coffee, they take it home,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
try to roast it, like, over a fire, and they have these crude methods for trying to grind it up, and they brew it, and it's not good. It's really just a caffeine delivery system. That's really all it is. And
Sure.
there's even old recipes. If you go back, there's old recipes talking about adding fish skins and eggshells to try to kinda reduce the grinds that get into your coffee, which, I mean,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
that can't be
I
good.
remember if you've ever been to a history museum where they show you, like, what Civil War soldiers carried around with them or the cavalry, they always had, green coffee beans, maybe a little grinder, but yeah, and cowboy coffee was you just dump it in the pot, boil it over the campfire, and then maybe some egg, something that, I don't know, binds up the grounds.
Yeah.
Yuck.
Yeah. Yeah, yuck is right. So Folgers origin goes back to the California Gold Rush, yet another company like Levi Strauss and now Folgers, the California Gold Rush. And as we know, the influx of people during the California Gold Rush was just mind-bending. So Jim Folger moves to San Francisco along with his two older brothers. Now Jim's 14 years old, so he's not old enough to work in the mines, but his brothers go work, mining gold. And Jim starts to work for a company called the Pioneer Spice Mill. And he's basically
Okay.
helping out the Pioneer Spice Mill. Now, here's the interesting thing. If you go back to an early Starbucks logo, the early Starbucks logo talked about it being coffee, tea, and spices. Like their
Okay.
first, when the logo was not green, but it was brown, and you go back to the very and I always was like, "Well, that's a really odd combination, coffee, tea, and spice." No, it's not. The early
Mhm.
days of coffee, because there's certain spices that you roast and there's spices that you grind, coffee was a natural for spice mills to actually start to produce because they could roast it and they could grind it properly.
What's the other one that comes to mind? Chicory,
Yes.
right? That was one, spice that you I don't know
Yeah.
if that is that a nut or a bark? I don't even know what it
I
is,
think
but
chicory's
chicory
a
was a
nut, yeah.
replacement for coffee.
Yeah. So what ended up happening is Jim saw, like, this coffee and he tried it out. He went, "Wow, this coffee's actually pretty good." And so he started putting the coffee in the tins and taking it to the mine, like, going to the mine and selling this coffee directly to the miners. So he was
As a
really
l
the first to do this whole idea of pre-packaging the coffee in a manner in which it could be taken somewhere else.
But not still not liquid, just coffee that's ready to be
Ready to be brewed and strained.
brewed.
But even that was an improvement because
Yeah.
it was now properly roasted and it was
Yeah.
properly ground, right? And it was stayed fresh because it was put in a can.
Okay.
So all of a sudden, it's this way better tasting coffee. Now, Jim works hard, ends up becoming a partner in Pioneer Spice Mill, and he gets the company to really focus on coffee. And basically, there reaches a point, Jim basically takes over the Pioneer Spice Mill.
Ugh.
He joins in 1850, and then by 1859, he's basically in charge. But here's the thing, he has this real dedication to quality. In 1880, he develops this whole idea of cup tasting, which is something that he took from the wine industry, where the whole idea
Cup
that you'd
tasting.
have tasters tasting all the different types of coffee to sort of really select, which were the best beans and best grind and best roasting to use in their coffee. He was really dedicated to this whole idea that it needed to be a quality product.
Okay.
And then the other interesting innovation they did was in the 1900s. So we know in the 1900s, grocery stores started to become a bit of a thing. And they started basically in the eastern states, selling in grocery stores. But what they did,
Stay tuned. We're going to wrap up this story and tell you how to apply this lesson to your business right after this.
Hey Rick, do you ever feel like
Yeah, I do. Spinning my wheels, getting no traction.
I was going to say like we're part of a computer simulation, like the Matrix?
Oh, I guess.
Your business still isn't growing, huh?
Nope.
Working harder, spending more, going down rabbit holes, but not growing.
Exactly. Going through the motions, like Neo at the beginning.
Well, you could talk to the host.
The guy on this podcast?
Sounds like he's figured out all the secrets for growth.
I mean, these stories are interesting.
It doesn't cost anything to talk to him.
That's true. Maybe I should get plugged in.
Come on, do it. I want to hear what your ads sound like when they play at the beginning of this podcast.
When you say stuff like that, it does sound like we're in the Matrix.
Watch this. Take the blue pill, Dave.
Let's pick up our story where we left off, and trust me, you haven't missed a thing.
and then the other interesting innovation they did was in the 1900s. So we know in the 1900s, grocery stores started to become a bit of a thing. And they started basically in the eastern states, selling in grocery stores. But what they did, one of their salespeople, Frank Atha, convinced them to do these really elaborate in-store displays. And I came across pictures of some of them. They were just like remarkable displays that they would
Mm.
set up in terms of how they stacked the cans, and they would do free sampling and all this other stuff to really drive the sales. And they continue just to be innovative on that front. But the part that I found that was really interesting about Folgers is this whole idea of, like, they were really the first coffee company to come out and say, let's make a quality product for people
Yeah.
and let's package it up in a manner in which it's easy for people to now suddenly take this into their home or their office or whatever and start to have a good quality coffee. Here's the interesting thing, and the next one we're going to talk about is Mr. Coffee. When you put
Okay.
together Folgers, Mr. Coffee, Gaggia, and Starbucks, you basically have got the story of coffee. And we'll talk about that
I love it.
in Mr. Coffee. So the funny thing is we haven't done it in Nordics. People go back and listen to Gaggia, and they can go back and listen to Starbucks. They're now in Folgers, and we're going to do Mr. Coffee next. But today,
It's the coffee series.
today it's estimated that Folgers is worth like $3 billion.
Sure.
Yeah. And to me, whenever I've looked at the old logo of Starbucks, it always was like, that's weird. Coffee, tea, spices. It just felt like it
Yeah.
was this weird mix. And all of a sudden it's like, no, it's not. That's what changed coffee was when the spice mills started going, we can roast it and we can grind it.
Yeah, we can make other hot drinks besides tea, from things that are, ground up.
And because we're able to roast it and grind it properly, we can make it good.
Yeah. I'm all for good.
Yeah, we can make
Alright,
it good.
I've got a coffee grounds question for you.
Sure.
And you've done the research, so you must know. When you and I just had this happen recently. We at Wizard Academy, we have one of those giant, I call it a funeral coffee pot. Basically, it's this big coffee brewing, percolating machine
Yeah.
that holds like 40, 50 cups of coffee.
Okay.
And you buy one of the big Folgers, plastic cans of coffee.
Yeah.
And the instructions call for so many scoops of coffee per cup.
Right.
And there's no scoop in the thing.
Was there no scoop in the thing? Okay.
There wasn't any scoop in the one and so how much coffee grounds is in a scoop? Like, what kind of measurement is that?
Okay. I
See, I
think
wanted to see if it would stump you
I think
because I've seen a
I
coffee
think
scoop.
it's a tablespoon.
Yeah,
I
well,
think.
before I asked the question, I Googled it,
Yeah, and how much is it?
and it's about 2 tablespoons.
Oh, it's 2
S
tablespoons.
Sometimes less, sometimes
Oh, well,
more.
that's so helpful. The sometimes less,
Right?
sometimes more is so helpful.
is is there a more American way to measure something that so American? Usually, like, you compare a measurement, like, if you rounded these, if you took 2,000,000 of these and put them end to end, it would, stretch to the moon. Like,
Right.
that's a one American way to measure things, but to to actually to actually state it against a standard of measurement,
Well
right? It's about 2 tablespoons. Well, why don't we just say?
well, especially where I could understand why it would vary based upon the coffee and things along that lines. See, and it's funny, I remember them used to having a scoop
Yeah,
in the
they used to have
can.
the scoop in the
So I
can.
guess what they've done as a cost saving measure is take the scoop out of the can. But at least what they should do is tell people, "Here's how
Yeah.
much." Yes. Yeah,
I mean, if you're buying Folgers by the gallon can, you've probably got a scoop somewhere. You probably know
probably.
what you're doing. We do this once or twice a year, and so, gosh, if you let every little plastic utensil that came in a package, you'd be up to your neck in them. So,
Right. But here's an interesting thing. We often are talking about and we've talked about this in past episodes, and so you can tell I don't use coffee out of these cans. But from past
turns out
episodes
nobody else does either, but I'll tell you about that.
only 27% of the population. But here's the thing, when we talk about eliminating friction,
Mhm.
that instruction should be on the can.
It's on the can, but it doesn't have the actual measure.
No, but what I'm saying is to that precision, not just a scoop, like
Yeah,
what's a scoop?
yeah.
A scoop equals, right? Like that because that's a friction item that
Well, and
frustrates people.
if you're trying to make 40 cups of coffee, you don't have time to stand there and measure it by the tablespoonful. Like, how many cups does it take? How many cups of coffee?
Right.
So here's the thing. We have a big class, a big event. We've got 40 or 50 people that we expect in the tower, and we don't want the jam up at the Keurig machine and the Nespresso machine. So we're like, well, let's make a giant pot of this funeral coffee,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And, people would rather stand in line one at a time at the Nespresso machine than drink a cup of this coffee. So, in the past year, I've made, 3 or 4 giant pots of coffee and then poured them down the drain 6 hours later.
Right. And Nespresso, there's another one that we've talked about in the
Yeah, I
past.
know, we've talked about that one. I don't know what episode that is, but, check it out. You'll understand why Nespresso is way better. I love this story of Folgers and
And Folgers is number 1 today
Mhm,
and passed with the Best Part of Waking Up campaign, and we're gonna
mhm,
talk a little bit about that campaign in the next one, Mr. Coffee. There's kind of an interesting link together that
sure.
Folgers really, really understood that's kinda cool.
But the fact that they made a really much improved, superior product
Yes.
for guys like miners
Yes.
that are going down and working underground,
Yeah, for
this
for
this
lab
was a product that was, like, yeah, easier and better.
Yeah, for laborers, miners, and then they leaned into that with creating this whole idea, like, they were the first company that had the cup tasters, and they copied that
Mhm.
idea from wine sommeliers in terms of, "Okay, we're gonna do this thing to make sure that we've got a really high quality, good grade of coffee."
Well, and that ensures also that it's gonna be the same
Yes.
6 months from now.
Yes.
You're gonna keep the flavor profile, consistent for people.
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Good job, Jim Folger.
Yeah, so there we
That's what
are.
I say.
That's the story of Folgers.
Thanks, Steven.
Alright, thanks, David.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. Please share us, subscribe on your favorite podcast app, and leave us a big, fat, juicy 5-star rating and review at Apple Podcasts. And if you'd like to schedule your own 90-minute empire building session, you can do it at empirebuildingprogram.com.